Hey, it's Jonathan Toshnik. The question is regarding contracts. I was asked about 5 questions in one here, so I'm going to knock them out one at a time. So, first question is who designs the contracts? You design the contract. So, you're going to design this contract, and what I mean by that is you're going to design the shell contract, the initial contract. So, you should really have a standard contract for your company. One of your last questions was, is the contract different for residential versus commercial? And I would say yes, and I'll come back to that and explain why. But so you're going to have 2 contracts if you're serving both markets. You're going to have one for residential and one for commercial. So if you listen to some of the other videos I have, you'll know that I'm not a big fan of residential contracts. I don't think they're overly necessary. And so you might go look up that past video and get my take on residential contracts. You want a residential contract though if you're doing monthly average billing. So you've gone in and you've said we're going to mow the lawn 40 times, we're going to trim the bushes 7 times, we're going to do this, that, and the other. You add up what that would cost over a year and you divide it by 12. Or you divide it by 10 or whatever number of service months there are. And then you bill the client that flat amount. That needs to be in some form of an agreement. I would keep that agreement where it's very short and try to keep it to a page if you can. Just keep it short. The longer your contract, the harder it is to get it signed. The longer your contract, the more questions it raises. Just keep it simple. Keep it real easy. Residential, that's really important. So I'd really recommend if you're going to do an agreement on the residential side, then just try to keep it down to a page. Keep it real quick and simple. So yes, different agreements potentially for residential versus commercial. If you're going to have an agreement for both sides of the business, then you draft those. That's up to you. That's your responsibility. You need to put those together, and they meet your terms. So you decide what's important, what needs to go in them. You give them to your client, and you should expect your client to sign your agreement. Your client's not going to provide the agreement. You provide it, and you expect them to sign it. There really shouldn't be a lot of negotiation. If you build an agreement that is fair for them and it's fair for you, protects them and it protects you. And for the most part, what an agreement's doing in this business is it's stating this is what we're going to perform. These are the services that we're going to perform. This is how they'll be performed. This is the amount you're going to pay. This is what happens if you want to exit the agreement or you want to renew the agreement. This is what happens if we have a disagreement that cannot be settled. Things of that sort. That's what goes into the agreement. You're laying out what the two of you have agreed to, and you're both signing it. So you are in control here. You write this agreement to protect you, but at the same time protect your client so that's something they can sign. Clearly, if you write an agreement that is completely one-sided and puts them in a very bad position with no recourse, no way out, things of that sort, why would they want to sign it? It's going to make it hard for you to get business. So you're protecting yourself while at the same time looking out for your client's best interest. You present a contract to them of that type, they'll sign it every time, you won't have any problems. Agreements are typically 1 year. That's very common. Sometimes a party will say, what about a 2 or 3 year agreement? Can we save some money, or can we not have the rate go up on us? Can we lock in this rate? So build your own contract. You design it. You're in control of it. Don't expect it to change. You also asked about who signs it. You as the business owner, and then whoever is charged with that activity in the company. So let me give you some ideas. If it's the residential homeowner, clearly it's spouse, husband, it's the spouse or whoever that is that you're dealing with. One of those two parties signs it. If you're dealing with a small business, very often it'll be the owner that signs it. If you're dealing with a larger business, depending on how large, it may be a purchasing manager. If you're dealing completely with a property management company who completely manages the property and you have no contact with the actual owner of the property, you sign that agreement with the property management company. With property management companies, it's not too terribly uncommon that they may present back to you some addendums to the agreement. And this could be true with the commercial property, but very often the property management companies are a little more savvy. They do this for a living. They sometimes will present back an addendum, or they will need something added, such as you are agreeing to turn in surveys once a month, inspection reports once a month for the irrigation system, or you will do this or that, and that needs to be added to your agreement. Generally, it's simply adding it to your agreement. So I'm not saying that there's never a case where that other party may present to you an agreement they want you to sign. I'm just saying that generally you're signing your agreement, you're presenting it. So you sign it, a purchasing manager, a property owner, a homeowner, somebody at that company who that's their responsibility generally signs that agreement. How much does it need to be for? That was your other question. It could be any amount. I mean, we could be talking about something that's $50 a month up to something that's $10,000, $20,000, $30,000 a month. Whatever that amount is. The bigger the amount, sometimes the more addendums that or amendments, more things that come along with that agreement, the more due diligence or the more thought that went into writing that agreement. So clearly, if you were selling a $200,000 a year job, it's going to be more involved in that agreement, or potentially could be, than that one that's $50. But my finding has been that my agreement that I use for properties that are $200 a month is the same as the one I use for properties that are thousands and thousands of dollars a month. So same agreement, and we drafted it, we designed it. So we are currently adding to Service Autopilot agreements, non-disclosure agreements, things of that sort. So if you come into Service Autopilot at the silver level or above, we will share with you a lot of these agreements that we wrote that you can then modify specific to your state. Really, there's not much you need to modify. It's just a little bit, and you would need to modify it to. And what I mean by that is what you have in an agreement is if the parties, you and the other party, have a disagreement, where does it get resolved? What state does it get resolved in it? What's the course of action? Does it go to mediation? Does it go to arbitration? And this is just a little bit of language in the agreement, but it's spelled out. And in that, it defines what state this will take place in. So I'll give you an example. If you were signing contracts outside of your state, you always want your contract to say that the litigation will occur in your state. You don't want to be getting on an airplane and flying to another state to fight a lawsuit, or every time they have a motion at court that you've got to go answer, your lawyer has to answer. You don't want the guy getting on a plane and flying to their state. You want it to happen in your state. I tell you that because that's the only thing you'll need to modify in these agreements that we're putting into Service Autopilot, that as a Service Autopilot user, you have access to and you have the rights to use if you're a Service Autopilot client. And so that's one opportunity. Be careful when you browse the internet looking for free contracts. I've downloaded free contracts over the years, and you get this whole folder of all these agreements. Some of that stuff's not too good. That's why we've decided for Service Autopilot, what we're giving away with the solution is stuff that we actually had lawyers write, that we have full confidence in. And so you have the right to use that if you're a Service Autopilot client. So that's one option to you. Otherwise, look around. The other option is to go get a lawyer, but that gets really expensive. Just for my non-disclosure agreement, I paid about $800 to have that written. And, so this stuff can get kind of pricey. But look around, and if you need some help, contact our office and we'll help you out. But those are the factors that you want to consider when you're putting together an agreement. You're in control. Be in control of this thing. You write it, you set the terms, and you sign it. Thank you.